What's up, guys? Elliot with the Grateful Web, and today I am joined by some very special guests. It is one of the most electric rising groups in the Denver scene today. We are with RADO. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Yo.
Great. You're doing great, man.
Doing awesome,
Happy
man.
to be here.
Good. Now, there's a lot of things going on in the world of RADO. Obviously, you guys just wrapped up your summer tour, culminating with the big show at Cervantes. We've got some fall tour dates maybe looming in the background. But I want to start first by talking about Baker's Measurements, the debut album. Walk me through the stages from its infancy to its final points, some of the curations that you guys had going into this album, some of the concepts that you had going into this album, who you worked with. Take me step by step through this new record, kind of from its infancy, like I said, to its final product.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So a big part of it was that we'd been a group for a while, and we had a pretty big catalog of songs. So we knew we wanted to obviously get that first studio recording out there, and so we had a lot of songs to draw from, and a couple of them were newer, a couple of them were very old. The first song on the album is the first song Dylan ever wrote, so that was kind of a special nod to that. And so we knew we wanted to record. We had our friend Logan from Camera Jams. We knew he had a good setup. We had played there. So we hit him up. Just went and did the first song. We kind of recorded it pretty spread out. Instead of doing like 2 weeks in the studio, we did it pretty spread out, just when we had time and all that stuff, and kind of like loaded in on a weekend, try to get as much as we could recorded on the weekend and pack out. So that was kind of the logistics side of it. I don't know.
Yeah, which was like ultimately kind of a good thing because we were able to switch up how we wanted to approach it with having that much time. Like we originally released the first single from it, close to a year from the full album release date. So it gave us a lot of time to like think about what we wanted to do, and that helped us kind of change direction a little bit because as you've seen, the live aspect of the band is what, we really pride ourselves on. Yeah, we love a tight-knit song and being able to deliver on that front, but really getting the mix and like being able to provide what we do live, because that's really dynamic and that's what people gravitate towards for us. So having that time span allowed us to like do the first song, which was Mr. Science, which is
River was the first one.
the first one that we went into the like jam element, which is Thank You, Mr. Science, which is a James song. And we like got to the jam part and we were like, I think we did the first jam and it was like, oh shit, that was like 10 minutes already. Like, yeah. Great. And it sounded really good, and it sounded like who we were from like an identity standpoint. So we leaned into that pretty heavy after that, and like each song kind of, I almost think, got more and more experimental and deep and kind of personified what we're all about.
Sure. Now, the album stands at 7 songs, but like you guys mentioned, it's over an hour long, so a lot of those songs are sitting at the 12, 13-minute mark. What decisions were made to get it down to those 7 songs? Obviously, like you've mentioned, you have a bigger catalog. Tell me some of the decision-making behind getting it down to those 7 tunes.
Yeah, I think we all leaned in together, kind of figured out what we thought were the ones that were going to make the most sense for the album.
Also, just bringing in a variety too of like, what's our overall sound? What do we represent? Like, let's give them a taste of that. Sure. This is our first debut album, so like that's never been put out before. And so I think it was kind of a culmination of getting the different vibes and the different genres and kind of what we represent. Totally. I feel like that was a big influence on the final
We have
decisions.
one that I sing. We have one. Every lead singer sings one, and someone wrote one of each on the album at least. Yeah. So we got a spread of.
That was important. I do remember that being an important thing. Being like, we want each of us to have like a lead vocal. Part for sure.
Now, there's this kind of old cliche that jam bands can sometimes face challenges going into the studio and recapturing that live energy. Because now all of a sudden, you're looking at structure, you're looking at multiple takes, you're looking at different creative ideas, and it's not just free form on the stage in front of you, right? Were there any unforeseen challenges that you guys faced in the studio trying to capture that live energy for Baker's measurements? And if so, what adjustments did you guys make?
Well, I think that, what you're saying is true, and most people who like jam bands don't necessarily listen to the studio stuff very much. And we kind of decided, like, instead of just trying to make like 4 or 5 minute cut up radio hits of these songs to like appease the studio album, motif, like, let's just keep it more live.
Sure.
And so I think we like overcame the challenge of the studio by saying, like, we're not going to be perfectionists. We're going to have jams.
Yeah.
It's going to, we recorded it all together too, which is, kind of a little bit different than the mold. So we chose to try to just like capture the live essence as much as possible in the studio album.
Totally. Just jam in the studio.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare that you can like capture a studio jam. Like anytime you listen to something like that's a live band that you like to listen to live, you always go to their live shit, right? Mm-hmm. Because you want to hear what they're doing live. But it's never like, you can have the best speaker system or the best engineer in the world, but it's always going to have like some imperfection because it's not the studio. So to be able to like fine tune like a live jam too is like really, really interesting to be able to put it into like such a like crisp and precise sound. It really just, I don't know, it's like rocket in a bottle. It kind of felt like when we did, and like it's super dope, man. Like there were like many times when it was just the first take of the jam. Like we just did the first one and we would do 2, 3, maybe another one, like, but it just wasn't as good because that's what we're best at. We're spontaneous. Like the spontaneity existed in that first take, and like you just can't. You can't get it anyway.
Maybe
you can't do it again.
Maybe less is more. Maybe you try to polish it too much, and that's where it gets.
Yeah. And I think that was a challenge. That was a challenge in itself to be like, man, there might be a couple of parts that were just like, I don't know if I love everything that I'm doing, but I like 95% of it, and the rest of the band is like really compassionate, or passionate about what they're, doing on this take. We got to kind of just roll with it.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I love about Baker's measurements specifically, though, is that we kept it kind of that raw formation. Nothing in life is perfect. Same with, we kind of roll with some of those notes that might not be exactly right, but it's like, that's part of the live improv element, and like just, creating on the spot like we love to do. And so I feel like that was a big piece. And then I do remember, I think it was Mr. Science, we actually used the click track for the entire jam, but then I think it was like for T for Two was the next one that we recorded where we actually pulled the click track out for the jam, and so we were just naturally.
Well, wasn't it? Didn't it? No, it was Science. But remember, we like used it, but then we got off of it, and Logan was like, "Oh, it's totally fine if you just want to use that take like fully," and we're like. Yeah, I think that's what we want to. I think that's what we're gonna do then. and then for the rest of the jams, we were just like drop the click. We trust each other enough to do what we do live on an album, and I think maybe that was like how we overcame. To kind of tie back to your question, maybe that's how we overcame the challenge. Was just it's a lot of trust, right? Where it's like if we're gonna take away the click, we got to know that like. Everybody's got to line up together and like sync on beat, and I mean that's like friendship 101, I think, and that's what really helps as well.
Did you guys have any light bulb moments? Any moments in the studio where something just clicked and you guys looked at each other and you were like, hell
Kevin sings like a goddamn angel.
So I'm too allergic to the dogs. We did come up with a new vocal part for Back Nine that we had never done live, and we came up with it in the studio, and now we do it live. So that was cool to come up with an entirely new part of a song that we've been playing for like 5 years almost, to write something new in the studio for it, a little vocal refrain.
And on the flip side of that too, is there anything? Oftentimes jam bands use improv as like a foundation for something new, right? I hear tons of bands coming back and talking about. Okay, we listened to our live show and we really liked what we did here. Let's take that piece and build it into the bridge or into the chorus.
Jamception.
Jamception, exactly.
Shout out Biscuits.
You already know. Does RADO follow a similar process? Are there any moments you can think of where you were deep in a back nine jam or...
There's one.
And you took that music and you kind of incorporated it?
There is one specific one that it still almost just exists in the sphere of Jamception because we've never practiced it together, and I'll just sometimes like bring it into the fold. It's like almost like this. Like I've been talking.
The money?
Yeah, I got the money, dude. I got the money.
Any chord, any jam.
Yeah, and like
go.
it just exists. It's just this really basic melody that just exists, and we can like do it in any key whenever we want. It's almost like this different concept of like, you know. The Biscuits are obviously a big influence for us, and like they've been doing this cool sample thing, but this is, I think, they're our own kind of take on it, where it's like grabbing a song and just having it not even be like a song. It's just like kind of like a phrase, like a really repetitive pattern that you're just kind of like sampling and bringing into like the middle of like out of the ether into the middle of a jam that you can all sync on, and then you just kind of like walk away from it. So there was this one show that we played at Herman's Hideaway. And Ben cut up, shout out to Ben, because he actually cut up the tape section of it being like, this part was really dope. And I was like, oh man, that's really cool. And I listened back to it and I was like, we got the money now. I was like, what? That's tight. And I've never shared the song. We've never practiced it. And sometimes we're just actually at the Serve show, we slid into it. It wasn't on the set list. It just kind of happened.
It just exists.
Yeah, I actually did write a B section to it. That's in a major part. That's going to be really cool because it's like the next phase of.
It'll grace the next album. It'll be fully built out,
it's
ready
really
to go.
Inspired a lot, you know, like in general with the sample idea.
I'll also say I have like at least 5. Like in memory that I'm ready, that earmarked to go to write.
I haven't heard. Have you heard this yet?
I haven't heard this.
Like Kevin has a bass line where I'm like, I'm using that bass line for something. We don't know yet what, but the songwriting process usually for me it's like a lot of downtime and then an explosion, and so I've got a couple ready to go.
That transitions perfectly into my next question, which is. You hear these bands, I'll use the Grateful Dead, for example. I think Bob Weir mentioned that after playing after so long, he knew what Phil was going to do before he did it. He knew what Jerry was going to do before he did it. There's almost this telepathic feeling that you gain by playing with somebody for so long. And you can kind of anticipate each other's movements and motions before they happen, right? Do you experience that on stage, similar to what you just hinted at? Is that something that you notice? Like, hey, I know Dylan's he has tendencies to move it this way, so I'm going to counterplay it by doing something else. Is that connection? And obviously you have not been playing as long as the Grateful Dead, but...
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is absolutely. Like, we all feel like a very telepathic, like,
sure.
It's not necessarily like one step ahead of the move at all times, but it's like we feel sort of like a pivot coming or a change, and we all kind of like, as if like a funnel, and they funnel into this moment together. And you can also just like, we've only been us 4 playing together for like 3 years, and you could just feel it over every couple months. It's like, whoa, we're getting like there's a new level unlocked. So like you said, we haven't been together for 30 years, so it's not fully there yet, but you can like feel it growing, even in like a matter of months. We go, like we'll do a tour of like 15 shows out on the road, and by the last 5, there's like a new feeling of connection and stuff like that. So absolutely.
Definitely having signals and different subtle things that we incorporate. Allowing.
Just good at like seeing body language too. If I see Dylan like step on a pedal, I'm like something else is coming.
Yeah,
or
interesting.
Opens your eyes or
and
something.
As a fan, I'm fascinated by that. One of my favorite things to do is watch the body language of the bands and their signals. Humphreys does it all the time, where like they have like their own language that they communicate with.
They do a lot of like hand stuff.
Hand stuff. Yeah.
I don't know.
The
eyes are the windows to the soul, baby.
Yeah.
I feel like we can like each individually look at each other when we're in the middle of a jam, and almost like just by looking at each other in the eyes just a little bit, like know like 20 things about what that person's thinking about right now. Like, you know, just because you're so you're like, it's again, like, I think the friendship thing and the trust thing's huge with this stuff, but like you're so locked in with these people that like a subtle hint of like anything, like any movement, any subtlety where it's like a small change, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of feel like you want to move on from this and take it in another direction that's like more interest. So like I wouldn't want to do this kind of band or music with anybody else but these three guys. You know, I think
I love that.
That matters to me a lot, you know.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, and on that same topic, where does your mind go? Let's say you're 20 minutes into a jam, and what is going through your brain?
Dude, these questions are so like great. I was, it's great to answer.
I'll be honest.
The influence.
I heard somebody ask John Mayer that question, and it blew his mind, so I put that in my back pocket.
Wow. No, I mean it's like.
Let's go.
I mean,
that's so
it's
funny.
fun to talk about the influences and stuff, but like,
we'll get there.
What am I
We're gonna
seeing in my mind?
We'll get to the influences. We'll get to the influences.
Usually taking a deep
Kevin,
breath.
what are you seeing?
I don't know. 20 minutes in, I'm usually like, who's gonna do something next?
Yeah, what's next?
Waiting on the next
Someone's gonna do something, so just wait
we
to
pull
react.
out?
In the best case scenario, it's not a lot of conscious thought.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
usually
less
when
is-
I'm kind of
that's
thinking like,
true.
oh, that person's like looking kind of funny, maybe they're not vibing with it, or like if I'm lost in thought about things, it can drift in the negative direction or just like
Sure.
feel more disjointed. And when
Sure.
I'm like not thinking and just
It's almost like a
having
clear mind is better, almost.
Yeah, it's
if
the
you're-
whole like flow state thing, but
Totally.
you just kind of
Presence.
want to just be like,
Yes.
having fun and not
Yeah.
thinking too hard, and that's when it's like
It's
the
so
best.
For
it's
real.
almost like it's if you, it feels like it didn't happen almost. Like if you're thinking about what's going on in a 20-minute jam, it's likely not 20 minutes. A 20-minute jam is usually when you come out of it and you're like, holy shit,
Yeah.
we've just played 2 songs and it's been at 60 minutes. Like
Yeah.
this feels like not like I thought we just started the set. And that's that like point of like presence and like like hopefully nothing's really going on. But I guess from like a standpoint of what do you see? I mean, I am curious. That's such an interest. Like I don't know what I'm seeing.
I'm seeing you guys.
I
see the crowd.
Your eyes
No,
are
I love
open.
vibing with the crowd too. That's like
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
where I like lock in
you're
with
great
people
with
at the
that.
crowd and like interact with them and all that type of stuff. Just kind of taking in the full moment and then obviously paying attention to these guys and where we're going and stuff like that. But the main thing that's just present moment and like the vibe, the energy, everything that's
Yeah.
happening right in
Yeah.
there. That's really, I think, what's flowing through me in a way because you're not thinking about what you're playing at that moment.
Right.
It's just flowing. And so it's kind of that point where we get to where it just really, it's a
You
wild
are great
piece
at
to the music.
connecting with the crowd.
Love doing
Specifically.
it.
Like Benny he keeps his eyes open like a lot. You
Good
know?
amount.
Like,
He's
a good
got a big
amount.
smile on his
I think
face.
I'm a shut. My eyes are shut. I'm almost trying to like disassociate from like one of the visual sense and like purely tap into like the auditory.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like. I think that's what I'm ultimately trying to do when I shut my eyes because I don't.
Yeah.
I'm like I can't hear
Taking
what's
a
going
nap,
on.
so
Can't
they say.
Yeah.
Can't seeing too many things. I gotta
Yeah.
just focus on what I'm
Gotta
hearing.
focus. Gotta focus on the dance moves too, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
Focus on the
yeah.
dance
the
moves.
kick.
Stomp going. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. One more question in terms of jamming, and then we'll turn the page a little bit. But within the jam world, there's this idea of like tension and release, right? I think it's something you might not even realize you're doing it, but I think the best jam bands have mastered this idea of tension and release, right? Like I'll give you a few examples would be Reba, right? Like there's this big build up before the jam section, and then it releases into this beautiful, like the sexy Reba jam that everybody knows and loves. You Enjoy Myself has another one, right? The big build up before Boy Man God shit. And it's that idea of like getting everybody tense and then that beautiful execution, right? Do you guys have an approach to that like crescendo or that sort of breath? Like I'm sure as you're up there jamming, you know when you're building towards something and when it's going to release. But is that something that just comes naturally? Is that something you work on, like your build-ups and then the release of tension? If that makes any sense.
No,
yeah. I don't think it's nothing we've ever like explicitly practiced too much. Occasionally, one exercise we have actually done is like, because sometimes it's like, hey, once you get on the track, like that's where you're going. And so one thing we've tried to practice is like getting back off of it, like building tension. Okay, drop back down into a groove and like release it back a little bit.
Yeah, don't give them everything right at once.
Yeah,
just
don't have to be a linear.
Yeah.
So that is one thing we've practiced, and also one thing I think I've noticed is like the longer you stay together, the more you get the chemistry, the more you know each other. You try to do it a little more tastefully and like save it. And like in the early days, certainly I specifically was just like always building up
100 from the
like peak again. And so you try to find more creative ways to do it and like get there more naturally, so to speak.
Yeah, the peak's always available. Like
the peak's always there.
It's there. I mean, that is the jam band discipline. I mean, those two songs are great. Like Chalk Dust, I think also has like an incredible tension. It's one of my like favorite, like not like structural ones, but that like from just like an improv standpoint, I love how they do that. Same with Stash. I mean, we've never practiced that though. We're like James is saying, we almost like practice not peaking more. Because
practice the pocket.
Yeah, a lot. Like we love pocket therapy. That's our that's
the second album, Pocket Therapy.
Yeah, we talked about it.
It was close. We continued.
One other thing that just made me think, because like Reba's kind of like this. Like Dylan does have some of that in his songwriting, where he'll have more of like a technical composed piece that is a little bit more classical in its feeling, and by that I mean like technical, and that sort of builds tension a lot of the time. Like Reba and that very composed technical section, and so like Steel Blue, I think of it's like very disjointed and kind of creates chaos, then like slides into this like very smooth groove coming out of it. So
it's almost easier to do it when you're jamming, like tension and release, as opposed to doing it that way where you're like those songs you mentioned. It's like a really beautiful picture of like the balance between tension and release, because those songs really just like flow in between those, like in contrast, like in a really cool way. Man, we got to get Steel Blue back into the Roto. That's a good tune. Yeah, that's coming.
Need a refresher.
That's like one of like
pocket therapy. JK, not pocket therapy. That has nothing to do with pocket therapy.
Well, speaking of your catalog, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but speaking of your catalog, how many we got in the bag right now? About 50?
Songs with covers,
like
and
if I'm
originals.
Let's say a festival promoter comes up to you and he says, I want RADO to play. I've got a week-long festival. I need a set every day. How long is RADO playing before they're like, we're out of tunes?
Like one set? We could probably do like 12
shows.
I
feel
think
like
we could
12,
do a 4-night 2-set run.
I think
that's
so.
probably
we
about
started
the max
really
right now.
scraping.
We try to do no repeats on like a weekend. If we're doing 2-night runs, we don't do repeats, and then kind of a little on like a tour weekend.
And and more are coming. I mean, we don't do the thing. We haven't updated our cover lists in a minute. I mean, we keep talking about them, but I don't know. The originals have just been really fun to dive into, and I think we just have a little bit ultimately more creative like expression when we get into the originals.
But I clocked it not too long ago. We played like 2 really massive nights, 2 sets each at Armadillo Ranch, and I was kind of like looking at the set list and like how much do we have left? How much longer could we go? I think we could do another 2 nights, especially like we've gotten like 5 or 6 new pretty big banger like centerpiece songs in the mix recently, and so those.
Or you can walk one out for 60, 70 minutes too. Like I know you guys can.
If we need
an option.
What's the longest?
The option is there.
Now we're going off script. What's the longest? What's the longest RADO's ever taken one out there?
41 minutes.
It broke the 4-0.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Science. Last year, it was.
Opener.
It was an opener.
Kingfish, right?
First time in Arkansas.
It was cool. It was also like, I think if we all listen back to it, we would be like, okay, this is cool. I wish we just kind of played something else.
Yeah,
could have done 30.
Yeah,
we weren't the best at getting out of
for a little while
at
there.
that point. So it was more like
time.
Like, what do we do? Kind of 41 minutes. Than like a prolific, like amazing.
The fact that it's an opener too is great because I pictured some guy who brought his girlfriend to that concert and she's just like. So it's just
Jimmy was high-fiving the football players afterwards, so I think we rounded everybody from the spectrum in.
Wow. And I think that's one cool thing too, reflecting back. Your questions have been awesome, but just reflecting back on like what's our journey been and stuff like that, because I feel like that tour we were really pushing. I mean, we had the 3-0 mentality, which is like 30 minutes plus, but then we were like, oh, what if we could push it even further? But that was really a practice of patience in the jams of like, how long can we have this so it feels good, it grooves, and we're actually telling a story.
Sure.
And so like we kind of leaned into that, and then we leaned into just doing the pocket. Like we've had these different moments and kind of themes to different tours as well, I would say.
Sure.
Where it's like it's been like that, which I love. It's like something new every time.
Well, now I like don't even think about getting 3-0 really. A lot of the songs are already naturally 20 plus without even trying. So it's just whatever feels right. I think we've gotten really good at getting out at maybe the right time and not like we have to do 30-minute jams.
Right.
It's like they're going to be 25 anyways. But
and it was never like we have to, but there was just this like underlying fun.
Well, it was an interesting mentality. It was we had a handshake, a signal.
Still got the handshake.
It was interesting. I think it was, but it was more like that what you just said is like this silly way of life where it's like kind of doing things as they come and not trying to push it too hard. And like if you listen to that science, we're just kind of like sitting in like these different like sections that are cool and like they're vibing and they're moving, but it's like they're not necessarily developing, which is the difference. And I think somebody out there might really like that science, but as a band, I think we've gotten more interested in like not running the marathon, but kind of doing these like cool, like kind of like short, like sprints and dashes through like cycles, but without having that comfortability of doing a song like that and sitting in these pockets and like being like, how do we develop these things? We're not able to get to that point where we can like cycle through like these really rapid dance grooves and I'll be like boom, 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 boom. I know right where you're going, like that telepathic thing that you were talking about. So the mentality helped in some ways. It was reckless. That's
fun.
I love it. Let's switch gears here for a minute. You guys had a very monumental thing happen in your career just a few weeks ago. The album release party at Cervantes.
That was so fun.
First off, congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
I mean, that's huge. Can you share with me your range of emotions from that night? From maybe I would assume probably some butterflies beforehand to the crowd cheering you on after. Walk me through kind of that night, your emotions, and how that felt.
Kev's parents were there.
My parents did come in from Pennsylvania.
Dude,
so
they were front
cool.
row the entire show.
They have not
Benny's
seen us
side.
with Ben yet, so that was cool. And they did make it all the way till 1 a.m. So.
They did.
Congrats. Shout out.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the first. I don't really get nervous before shows anymore, but I got a little nervous for that one just with whenever we sold like 375 tickets. Everyone I know their parents are there. It's just like, all right, we have to be good for this one.
Yeah. Gotta be on.
But
little anxious eggs here and
we
there.
call it anxious eggs.
Yeah.
Nervous energy.
Yeah.
Just anxious eggs.
Got a song for that.
It's also just like it is kind of stressful because all these different friends groups are coming to see you. People's families are coming. You're trying to like entertain everyone, appease everyone, get through sound check. There's a lot going on, but I personally like somehow felt the calmest I have in like a big spot like that. Like we played some other big shows where I felt more nervous, and for some reason with that one, maybe it's because we've been touring so much and playing so much, but I was pretty zen actually when we walked on stage, and so that was cool for me.
Yeah, and the energy of Cervantes is just so good. Yeah, and it's a big stage, big room. Like the vibes were just high, and yeah, man, it was couldn't have asked for anything more.
You couldn't. Yeah, it was amazing.
Good.
I mean, the sound check is always like a tell, and I could feel like we were all a little like just stressed out. You know, you have like a buzz or something happen with your shit, and it's like, oh my God, it feels like 10 times worse than it actually is. And, you know, we lucky to have like our buddy Matt Bell. Shout out Mart.
Shout out Mart.
Manager
Who's
Mart.
that guy? It's
Mart.
Mart.
Who's that guy that's Mart?
Who's that guy? It's Mark. 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 Who's that guy? It's Mark.
Shout out. But he helps us. He helps us just zone in a little bit. I think he knows when we need that moment, and you know that green room downstairs it serves. There's a lot of different people going on, and it's cool to have that going on. But you do want that moment. And Matt just right before we got on stage, he like came in. We did like little like band like breathing exercise, little like let's go, let's have some fun. And that always, no matter what, I think that even if it's small, it's like 30 seconds. It does help. Just
so much.
Helps us get like this is fun. Matt's here.
Zoned
Like, let's do it.
When you hit stage, does that all go away? Or is there still a little pent up?
For me, yes.
First jam, usually getting through the first part of the first song, I'm like a little making sure the equipment's all sounding right. Like everything's
Getting
going
warmed
well.
up.
Once we're like into like the first like pockety jam section, I'm like, all right, cool.
5-10 minutes in, and it's like, all right, boom.
Yeah, good to go.
Buckle up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like hopeful that nothing has changed from sound check. Like, and that's kind of why I understand.
Which is almost never the
case.
Probably.
I get why bands get more, you know, as you get kind of
Over-under.
bigger and bigger. Like, I get why they're more and more meticulous about, don't like, please don't touch our stuff. Like, we want to leave it right here. Like, our settings are our settings because,
Totally.
you know, you go into that, 500 people are there, and you can't hear your virus through your in-ears. It's like, guess I won't be using that for a little while. Or just pray to God.
I can't hear it, but I know it sounds good.
I'm sure it's cool.
It's got to be right.
Amazing. Well, congratulations again. That's incredible. And you've also had some huge moments this summer. I mean, I think you would all agree that this summer has probably held some of the biggest shows that you guys have played thus far in your career. Give me a couple of the highlights from this summer that stood out to you guys. Maybe 2, 3.
Ooh, Power and Progress, definitely. That was the first one that came to mind. That was a fun vibe because we played went on at 1 or 1:30, I believe, a.m. And so it was just like the night vibe on a Saturday and like riding that out. Or it was a Friday night, I think, actually. Friday or Saturday, one or the other.
Saturday morning.
Yeah,
there you go. You split the difference.
Yeah.
That was
there we
absolutely
go.
perfect.
A little bit of both. Yep. And so that one was the first one that came to mind because it just, really great vibe there. And that nighttime, like,
Lang dong.
Playing the dance party at a festival at 2 a.m.
So
Always
fun.
the best.
So
yeah,
fun.
I was gonna piggyback off that, and it felt like the theme of this like summer was like getting on some festivals that we really wanted to be on and like making some waves because obviously the festivals are super special. It's a broad range of people, a bunch of different like musical backgrounds. They're there to just see live music. The vibes are great, and we've had a bunch that we've like been working our way in. So we played Terp Float in Tulsa or Tahlequah. That was a lot of fun. Probably like the biggest festival we've been on, just to like see our name on that lineup with those other people is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a sick lineup. Shout out Terp Float.
Yeah, same with Elevation Fest, which we just played last weekend. Yep. Really cool lineup, and so it was cool to have like 3-4 like pretty solid, well-known festivals that we got to play.
Empire Control Room too in Austin. It was hot as hell, but that was another really cool room to play too. Yeah, very fun.
Yeah, we got the lights popping in there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sick.
Yeah, it's been a busy summer.
Yeah, you guys have been crushing it. I've heard some whispers. About a rock opera. Maybe some robots, some space, a little AI.
Oh yeah.
Say ringing any bells, boys?
Something's
buffering.
buffering.
You got the money.
Buffering.
Yeah.
Buffering, loading. What can you tell us?
Well,
What can you tell us?
I can. Yeah. So it's I think it's 3 parts. I'm in part 2. So I think it's 3 parts, kind of like a standard Shakespearean play where there's a 3-part piece to it. But anyways, we debuted. So this isn't like new news fully. Like we debuted the first part of it at New Year's last year, and yeah, it's basically just this like kind of like space futuristic opera about AI and this guy that builds like a robot because his wife dies. And she like kind of like wants to take over the world, and they live in this like evil area, and this guy Jimbo Bags has all the money and he funds their evil project. And yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's like what's
To
cool.
be continued.
I have been writing the second part of it, and what's funny is we've played a lot more of those songs. Honestly, the second part songs just like as a band, because the second part is really when the robots like kind of start to take over. So it's like just got this like ultimate like just like unseen
Jamtronica
blue, yeah, and it's really sick, man. And
that's so sick.
What's cool is like I've had. James has been really helpful with the whole thing in a big way, because I don't think I would have been able to like map it all out without some of the collaboration that him and I have had over the time of like writing it. In the band too, I mean, it's not like typically I bring a couple songs to the fold, and this one was a little bit more developed structurally, but it's always like, what do you guys think about this? Like, let's make this better as a group. And the first part is like this cool seamless 45-minute 50-minute 8-song kind of just like medley that it just is just
Takes you
people
on a journey.
love it. I mean, where we played
Takes
it,
me
it's
on a
like
journey, honestly.
it's like kind of you gotta fit it in. You can't just like drop that at Cervantes your album release out of context. But the people that like it, like the Manitou crew is where we played it, and they call for it every single time when we play a show.
Sick.
It's like
it's just cool to, obviously we're not reinventing the wheel, but to like just take a different approach at writing songs, and there's a connecting theme, and I can't remember exactly. I don't know how much of it you had written or where you were at when we decided we were going to do it for New Year's Eve. Was that 2 years ago now, or was that
was
last
no,
year?
that was last year.
Wow.
Last year.
This year.
Yeah, because
Lifetime away.
so I don't remember how much
was
you
like
had written it, but like we decided we were going to do that,
And
and it was
that
really
kicked
exciting
me-
and cool, and like
That kicked me in the butt, though. Like, I kind of needed that, because we were just, like, I was writing the first part of it as we were going through switching, Benny and Zach from a drum standpoint. Like, Ben's only been in the band since January, like last year. Yeah.
So,
Year and 8 months.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I just said like 3 years.
I know. It's that's a crazy thought, but because of that, it was like we're learning a lot of new songs, and I'm just kind of like writing this stuff in the background, but being establishing like, hey, it'd be really cool if we ended up doing this idea for New Year's. I ended up writing like 3 or 4 more songs, and I gave everybody a part like in it, which I think is cool. Like Kevin sings probably again with that angelic beauty voice over there.
I'm a robot woman or something.
And we actually did play that one at Cervantes because it's just like this powerful anthem that Kevin just gives the song so much like justice that I never could have done. And we wrote another part of the song just like sitting downstairs in a green room called Jimbo Bags, and that's what changed it. Actually, dude, we were sitting. No, I swear to God, because we were sitting in the green room at the Armadillo Ranch, and we were talking about maybe doing the opera, and I was like, I don't really have a new idea for it, and I was just like dicking around playing this guitar part. and Jimmy was there. I was just like goofing around, having a good time, hanging out.
Don't ask why it's Jimbo bags.
And we were, and there's just this song kind of came to life, and I used that to help write the next part of the entire opera. Yeah. So it's like, dude, just looking for little small synchronicities, odd patterns that exist, moments of inspiration that are just like out of left field. Like, there is beauty everywhere. Just allow it to exist and try to bottle it when it comes in these unique, forms and phrases.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yep.
I can't wait. You just got me so revved up right there, man. And if you think about it too, I mean, you look at Fish with Game Henge, you look at a band that we're going to talk about next that you've mentioned that is no stranger to operas, the Disco Biscuits.
Like 3.
They have
another on the way always.
They've got that down. But speaking of the Disco Biscuits, you guys appeared on Touchdowns All Day.
Oh, that was sick.
That was
a
so
cool
cool
moment.
Yep. What a cool moment in
very,
time
very
that must have
excited
been.
about that.
What was it like? Obviously, I've heard the cover, the listeners have heard the cover, but what was that like to receive that recognition on kind of a national scale? And how did that impact you?
Kev, go ahead, man.
It was cool. They liked it, so that was good.
He mixed and and I just want to call this out. Without Kev, like, that doesn't sound nearly as good. He mixes, masters every single one of our shows. If it doesn't have that quality, I don't think we end up on that podcast.
Yeah.
So
Shout
just
out.
wanted to say
Shout
that.
out.
You can also hear that rock opera too that we did New Year's Eve. That's on our Bandcamp for free. The first
Just
part.
don't listen to the third
plug.
set. It gets a little rowdy at the end.
But the rock opera was before midnight. Come out there.
Yep.
That was cool. I was pumped. They were saying on the podcast that they were looking for fan submissions. So like, man, that'd be amazing. Have Barber listen to us play his song, and I hit it up, and they got back right away and got on it. Like, Barber loved it. We're gonna get you on. I was like, wow, I cannot believe that worked.
So
it was
did
awesome.
he have all 4 of you on, or how did it work? Like in terms of
We weren't actually interviewed or anything.
Got you. So
what they did for the podcast is they listened to the covers and they talked about it.
So
it was really, really cool to
and I did hear a snippet where he said something along the lines of, "Oh, they sound like you because they jammed the hell out of the intro."
Right.
Yeah.
Like they were teasing it, but they didn't actually go into the chorus for like 10 minutes.
Well, it's like a
which is
22-minute version of that song.
Yeah.
You
that
can-
we
we
sent in
just
live.
jammed the intro for 12 minutes. I love it.
That was an opener. That one that night too.
That was the opener.
Oh my god.
There is something great about teasing the song at the beginning and getting the fans to know that you're heading in that direction, but you don't give it to them right away.
Yeah.
And so you'll tease the bass line, but then you jam. And then you tease the lead and you jam. And the Biscuits are very, very good at doing that.
It's their
it's
we
their
bread
thing,
and
man.
butter.
We've talked about that recently and try to do that more. I'm like, hey, if you hear me doing it, that doesn't mean the whole band needs to
It doesn't
switch
mean we
right
have to
away.
go into the chorus.
I'm just letting
Let's
you know,
do this.
mental note. And sometimes we've also done it where we don't end up going back, which is
And that's
another
the best.
beautiful thing because it
Yeah.
just shows that you're not committed.
100%.
Locked in,
I'll hear Brownie dive into something. I can smell an orc theme from a mile away. I'm like, there it is. There it is. So that's hilarious.
Yeah, one other fun note just on the Touchdowns All Day podcast I have to say, it was even extra special because we listened to that podcast on tour on the road all the time.
Sure.
So we've
All the
listened to
time.
20 episodes just driving around. We'll listen to 4 hours of it in a row. So
Yeah.
Yep.
it was definitely near and dear to our hearts.
God, what a cool moment.
Those hot Barber takes, we almost listened to it exclusively for that.
He's the best, dude.
His thought about elephants.
The take on our episode is next level.
It's the elephants, right?
Dude.
Is this the cover episode?
Yeah. Barber, the way Barber's mind works, we're just going to go into a Biscuit segment here. The way Barber's mind works is fascinating. I love reading his Twitter account because he'll just tweet these ideas at like 2 a.m. and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Is he thinking about?
I'm
a
not gonna lie.
fascinating dude.
He did, and it's interesting because they did release their rock opera around the same time, but he went on to the Andy Frasco World Saving podcast thing and just kind of talked about his approach to writing rock operas, and he was just just kind of thought it was time for me to write a rock opera, so I did, and I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I think it's time for me to write a rock. So I kind of just did it. That's that unique kind of philosophy that you think it's this huge thing that you got to do, but all you got to do is just put pen to paper and just kind of start, and then you get there. So huge shout out to the Biscuits. We love them.
Yep.
I mean,
massive.
love what their communities, done to help us too. We know you're a big fan of them, and that video you posted of us blew us up on Twitter, and it's just that they're being a Biscuits fan has helped our band, and I don't know that I can really say that of any other fandom that I've ever had, which is just that's cool. That's I don't know. That's just really special. It really is, man.
It's a great community, and to do what they're doing right now at this point in their career.
Yeah, the resurgence is incredible.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable.
Next
we
level
love
stuff.
all the new songs. That's why we picked
the
Taurus.
how many jam bands do you go to the shows and you say, I hope I hear the new music? Because it's not many.
I know.
Everybody wants to hear the old stuff. You go to the Biscuits, you're like, give me all the new stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, this has been great. I got a few more for you guys.
Cool. This has been awesome.
This has been great. You guys rock. I sometimes hate to ask the question, what are your musical influences? I think it's a very cliche question, but I also think it's interesting to hear people's backgrounds. What were you listening to? What inspires you? So let me pose it to you like this. If you had to build a playlist full of artists that have influenced RADO, and you as a person individually, who would be on that playlist?
Way to change it up.
See what I did there?
I like
Make it
that.
a little
twist at the end there.
It's a little trick.
Oh, man. I mean, for me, JoJo Mayer, he's a big drum and bass drummer, but he's in the band Nerve. I'd throw Nerve on there.
Sure.
Yeah, that's I've been jamming that since, shout out Nerve if we got any fans out there. But yeah, I've been jamming them since, 6th, 7th grade, I want to say.
Yeah.
Way back when. So, because I love drum and bass. But yeah, I'd throw that out there, and Lotus too.
Yeah.
For those funky dance grooves, man, and vibes.
Super upbeat, pumping, but very locked
Lotus,
in.
Lotus was my first Jamtronica love.
I brought Benny to his first Lotus show in Detroit.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah. Remember?
Well, we were there. We didn't know each other yet.
You went. Yeah. Bunkmates.
Who else?
What you
Wolfpack. I mean, there's the
sure.
influences that we feel as a band, we all love to put on. There's obviously my influences from middle school, high school, early days, but as a collective, the things we like to listen to. Wolfpack's up there, Lotus is up there. Parcels, Mild Life, some really vibey, groovy, crispy, crunchy grooves. On top of your standard jam band heroes, Fish and the Biscuits, and maybe a little bit Grateful Dead. But Kevin's got a good musical palette.
Yeah, for bass, we have to get some Motown on there, or some of that stuff for bass specifically. James Jamerson, the house bass guy, I had a book of all his bass lines and would study those. So that's for
That
bass
explains
specifically.
so much.
Oh yeah, the grooves thing.
Damn, the book of bass lines.
Yeah, I think all those. We also stay decently current. I think we all EDM, hip hop a lot.
Big into house.
I also get really not maybe as much of an influence, but inspired by a lot of my friends. Honestly, a lot of bands in the scene, Love Swerve, their songwriting I think is really cool. I've taken elements and pieces from what they do, or even Benny's old band that he was in, Scheme of Things. These Jamtronica guys that are just deep, heavy Jamtronica. Taking pieces of that I think is always really fun too. So
much talent. And
Denver. Truly, shout out.
Oh man,
another big shout out.
Yeah.
Denver music scene.
That is a good point. Biggest influence
Incredible.
are just going to all our friends' shows around here.
You're wow, that's so
taking
cool.
the
What
things
do you
we
play?
like the most about
Yeah, write something like that too.
Let's
go.
It's so true. And you pop into Cervantes any Saturday, Friday night, somebody killer is playing those rooms.
Yeah,
It's
straight up.
I feel like that's my suggestion to people from outside of town if they
Me too.
like this music, where it's
same.
what's going on in the
I was
town?
go
It's
check out
go
Cervantes.
check out
If you've
Surf,
never
see what's
heard of
going
them, they're good.
Yeah, totally.
Something will be happening.
Totally.
Yeah, honestly, that was one of the reasons why I moved out here like 7-8 years ago, was because of the music scene.
Yeah.
Same.
Jammed with this guy. You were out here before I moved out here.
Yep.
We jammed with Jayquist and had a little basement fun sesh. And
yeah, so Ben and I have been playing music together for 8 years. Kevin and I 5 years. James came into the fold. Actually, oddly, like late, like in terms of like who's been all playing together, like a little bit later. I think like 3.5, 4 years ago now. Because you came to the band in June 21.
Yeah.
Like that was the first show.
A little over 3 years.
Yeah.
We've been jamming for a long ass
Yeah,
time.
we used to jam years before.
Yates
The three of us would
House
jam.
and-
before.
that was so fun.
Cool guys.
Yeah, where were you, Jimmy?
In a similar vein of that last question, what are some non-music influences in your life? I mean, at the end of the day, we're people, right? We like different activities. We have different hobbies. Do you draw any inspiration from other elements of your life, other, like I said, activities or hobbies that kind of open a creative avenue for you?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, one of them definitely, like, it's a little cliche for Colorado, but we love the outdoors.
Of course.
And, like, that's in our imagery of our logos and our name, and it's all about, mountains and the wild animals and kind of like the wilderness. And one other thing I think is very apparent when you see us play is like we just have that influence of like loving life and like having a great time and like not taking it too seriously and like just having a lot of fun and being in the moment and like getting hyped up together. And so I think, we all take that from our everyday lives and into the music.
Totally.
Yeah, biking for me too. I love biking.
Yeah.
And kind of have to bike to be able to drum with these guys.
Sure.
Benny Beats.
But yeah, no, for real though, it's being out in nature, especially biking, throwing on some good music, or just going with no music and like allowing your brain to flow and be in the moment as well. That's definitely a big thing for me, and what I love to do.
100%.
Getting active, playing sports. We like watching sports a lot.
Yeah.
And we were talking football a little bit earlier. Like
Sports gambling.
Yeah, that's more Kevin's forte. Sorry, Pam. Yeah, but I mean that's what we love. That I like to play golf. I think that's really fun. I'm trying to figure out how to bring the golf clubs on tour and find the time to do that. But that's maybe that's future, Dylan.
Yeah.
Sick. Well, guys, this has been fantastic. I've got a couple more for you. Got 2 more big ones, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Cool.
How would you say that RADO's sound has changed from its infancy to where you guys are at now? Is there any sort of vibe or genre you were trying to capture at the beginning that you wanted to focus on that has maybe shifted as things have progressed, whether naturally, unintentionally, or intentionally? Like, is there something that you focused on at the beginning that no longer works, or?
Not necessarily that, but like I used to think we were like a good band and like we were working towards playing the music that I've always wanted to play and like hear in my head kind of thing. And now like, I hope this, I mean this in a very humble way, but like we are literally my favorite band to listen to, like, period. Like I love throwing on RADO, like in the morning, like brushing my teeth, like on a run, like trying to go to sleep. Eggs. Like, like that's kind of a cool thing for me because, listening to yourself with like an exceptionally critical ear, like we are always going to be our own worst critics. And like, it used to be like, oh man, like I hear what we're trying to do, but it's not there. And like, sometimes I'd get a little discouraged in some ways where it's like, man, I want it to get there. And, you get pumped up about that too, because you want to reach those new heights or whatever. But now I can listen to it and just be like, man, I really just love what we're doing. Like we're playing the music that I've always wanted to play. And that to me has changed. And then maybe the big thing is patience. We've really developed this like patient understanding of how to progress through the music.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we kind of alluded to this earlier, but like early on, it was just like the peaks are the thing, like chase these like super
Raging,
build up, like soaring, intense. And then, as Dylan said, like those come easy. We got those whenever we want. Like what else, where else can we grow? And it was very much like pocket therapy, like sitting in a really steady groove for a long time without letting it ramp up. Because the natural thing to do when you're grooving is to like just build and get more and more intense. It's like really being, intentional about patience, sitting in grooves. We definitely gotten more funky over the years, and just finding those like slow, kind of swampy, funky moments. I think that's and then most recently we've had a bit of with sort of this second part of the rock opera with sort of like house club, like something you could almost hear in a club, and it's like very dancey, bumta. Kind of like it's the new unsa.
It's a little different.
It's the Polish version.
That's been a really fun new evolution. Just some of these songs are like a little electro, a little dancey, a little bit poppy, which is probably something I never thought I would want it to happen, but we've done it in a way that's really fun. And,
and that's that's why I like the Beatles a lot. Like if we talk about influences, like pop songs don't need to be, oh baby, you left me. Like you can write a pop song about coffee. You know, which we've done, which slaps.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm always thinking too of what more can I sprinkle in with these guys and play and incorporate to take my drumming.
Hey, you're loving them.
Leveling the loving. But yeah, take my drumming to the next level, and always just making it different, making it creative and tighter and that type of stuff.
We used to call the funk music kind of slanky funk music, and I still love that stuff. Don't get me wrong, it was awesome, and I think we could still do more of that shit. But this tight, crisp, bouncy, it's just it resonates a little bit.
Sure.
More, I think, perhaps, and that's been. Just getting more people to just come see a show, and they're just bouncing up and down,
the room moving, vibing and dancing. Oh man, that's why we do it.
I love it, guys. Well, thank you for doing this.
It's a good time.
This has been so much fun, and you guys deserve all the hype, all the respect in the world. I truly mean that. You guys are fantastic. So, final question from me. What are you cooking up for 2024 and beyond? What's something that we can leave the fans with for the future for 2024 and beyond?
Just,
another single, maybe.
Yeah, more studio.
No, definitely. We got a couple more albums in the future, but that'll be coming for sure.
You got the rock opera, dude.
Yeah, massive backlog.
I think more shows. That's the big thing we're trying to get out to. I think we're gonna try to finally cross the final frontier of getting to the East Coast.
It's a 36-hour drive.
It's a fucking trek out there, but I think we want to do that, and the next big thing on my agenda, because I do a lot of the booking stuff for the band, is I really want us, and with Gabe Mintz would be, don't want to have this interview without shouting out our boy Gabe. Gabe Mintz, Mintz Media, Loose Leaf. But I really want us to do some of these bigger opportunity shows in Denver and land something that's larger than life almost feeling for us, and I want to make that happen. And I think the first thing is talking about and getting that intention voice. So that's happening.
We're down.
Sick.
Yep, we'll be there.
Sick.
Yep.
All right, boys. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Again, appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Yep. Guys, and
appreciate you.
Again, Elliot with the Grateful Web. Thank you.
Thank you, Grateful Web.
Shout out Grateful Web.
Shout out G-Web.
Woo!
Clap.
Clap.
Yeah.
Many claps.
Sick. That was good.